If you're starting to feel the holiday stress, I have got the answer for you. So our Rest and Relax oil by Radical Roots is hands down our bestseller, and it is so for good reason. This formula is so safe, effective, and versatile. Everybody loves it. So what we did is we combined full spectrum, high quality hemp with a Chinese herbal formula that nourishes the heart and calms the spirit. So it's great to take during the day if you're feeling any sort of anxiety or stress, but it's also awesome to take at night if you're looking to make sure that you're getting the highest quality sleep that you can. I take it almost every day, and I'm certainly taking it anytime that I'm recording a podcast. Head to radicalrootsherbs.com, use the code HOLIDAY30 and get 30% off of our Rest and Relax tincture through New Year's. Hey guys, it's Dr. Chloe, and you're listening to the Radical Remedy Podcast. So today's guest is Brian Richards, and he is the founder and CEO of Sauna Space, which is my number one sauna company on the market. So if you haven't picked up on it, a big theme of this podcast is how to reduce toxins in our environment and how to get them out of our body. And sauna is the number one way that I recommend doing so. So in this conversation, we really dive into the science behind photobiomodulation and how different light frequencies are able to stimulate healing within our bodies, as well as the importance of hyperthermia and the massive amounts of research behind it supporting brain health, detoxification, so many different things throughout the brain and body. It's really mind-blowing. So check it out. I know you're going to love it. You're going to learn so much from this conversation, just like I did. And if you want to learn more about Brian, check out saunaspace.com. They're really doing an incredible job. There's a coupon code in the show notes. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey guys, it's Dr. Chloe, and I'm here with Brian Richards from Sauna Space, and I'm super excited to speak with you today. Thank you so much for joining me, Brian.
Thank you for having me, Chloe.
Awesome. So Sauna Space is a really innovative company that has changed the game when it comes to saunas. And as you'll learn in this podcast, there are just so many incredible health benefits, ranging from increasing lifespan and health span to cardiovascular support, neurodegenerative disorders, mitochondrial function, detoxification. I mean, it's really across the board. It's an amazing device, but also you're getting the hyperthermia effect in the sauna, and then also the photobiomodulation in your saunas as well. So one of the things that you've said on other podcasts that I found so fascinating is that almost every culture in the world has evolved with some sort of sauna tradition. And I always think that that's so fascinating, because that's one of the things as a doctor of Chinese medicine that I'm always looking at. Is I always tell people, you know, every culture of the world has a bone broth and has some sort of a fermented food. And I never really thought of sauna that way, but I grew up in Brooklyn. We used to go to the Russian banyas and the Korean baths, and you're completely correct with that. So I'd love to dive in a little bit about the history of sauna and how it started, and maybe a little bit about how you got into this wild world.
Absolutely. The history of sauna goes back thousands of years and really harkens back to the history of the fire. So we've lived with fire for, who knows, 50,000 years, maybe 100,000 years. We don't really know. But even before that, like, what is fire? Fire is incandescent light, and the sun is incandescent. So we're living under the sun, evolving under the sun, and the sun nourishes all life on Earth. And most of what we absorb from the sun is near infrared. There is a lot of visible light in the spectrum, but in terms of the photons per second we absorb, so the wattage we absorb from the sun, actually 70% of it is near infrared. And so it's been with us forever. And then we kind of figured out eventually, hey, we can make our own fire. We can make our own sun right here next to us. And of course, fire has been our tool and friend, you know, for so many things. It increases the caloric amount of the food we eat and makes it more easily digestible. That allowed us to develop larger brains. And, you know, setting aside all the evolutionary stuff, it's this age-old, many eons of sitting next to the fire and soaking in the firelight, which is a lot of near infrared. There's definitely mid and far infrared in there too. But eventually we figured out, hey, what if we made this inside of an enclosure and then sat there and sweat? maybe there's this purifying effect that it has. And that's, of course, what happened across the world. They have little Celtic sauna caves, in Ireland, and the Korean hot pools, and of course, sweat lodges and saunas and Turkish baths across the world, right? So every human culture figured this out. When you make the body sweat passively, so you're not working out, you're just hanging out, it gives it all of this energy and power to detox, to heal, to repair, to rejuvenate. And so this is age-old practice that now we see in modern medicine with modern observation and modern scientific study, that there really are benefits to every cell of the body that results in us living longer. So when you use sauna, it increases your health span. It reduces your risk of dying of all things, what's called all-cause mortality. And it also reduces your risk of dementia. And particularly nowadays, our ancestors understood that detoxification, purifying the body of poisons, is one of the key elements to health. There are other elements too: food, water, how we breathe, the environment we're in, the relationships we have. But there's ancient wisdom, right, of detoxification through passive sweating, through sauna, as a frequent practice to keep oneself healthy. And nowadays, it's not just a luxury anymore, Chloe. It's more like a necessity, because nowadays we experience so much more. It's really a tidal wave of toxins that we deal with nowadays, from modern industry. So much more exposure to heavy metals, plastics, dirty water, our air, just our lifestyle, and the fact that we're not purifying anymore has led to the development of so many diseases that are really, all of that is really just a disharmony in the internal or external environment. All disease, it's not really genetic. We're powerful beings. We're really unlimited. It's the poisons that we ingest, and there are various types of them. We'll have to talk about all of them, that our body, in trying to combat, gets diseased and gets symptoms. And so when we experience these symptoms, it's not our body's fault, and it's not our body working against us. It's our body trying to help us. It's our body trying to purify us. So sauna is such a safe way to purify the body. Really, anybody can use sauna, and everybody benefits because of the cellular action of detoxification. So sauna, in short, it basically creates these things called heat shock proteins. They're dormant at resting body temperature. When you heat the cells up 3 degrees, you get production of these HSPs. The HSPs improve cellular detox. They act like chaperones. And they also correct protein function. So they refold misfolded proteins, and they have a reoptimizing effect. So when you're in the sauna, you're not just purifying yourself, you're correcting and reoptimizing, the dysfunction of the various proteins. The proteins are the line workers of all the cells of the body. They're one of the most important aspects of who we are. And I love that aspect of, it's not just cleaning us out, it's actually correcting us at the same time. So to get back to the history of sauna, we've always had wood-powered saunas. And then we invented electricity. And then we invented the electric light bulb in 1887. And then Dr. Kellogg in Battle Creek, Michigan, looked at this and said, hey, I can make a sauna out of it. There's something special about this light. And so he proceeds to make the electric light bath in 1891. And he also made a photophore that was a portable electric light that was for healing. The product that we have called the photon is a modernization of that. So he invents this, and he tests it on 50,000 patients in Battle Creek, Michigan, and over 200,000 log sauna sessions. He documents all of it in a book called Light Therapeutics, published in 1910. And what's interesting too is he was not the only guy using electric light bulbs for healing. There was this guy, Babbitt, there was Dr. Gaudiali, there was Arthur Dinshaw, and others. They were all contemporaries of Tesla, and they're all using electric light bulbs to heal different diseases, to heal different maladies. This is not as well known because this was really suppressed by the rise of the American Medical Association, the FDA, and conventional medical care taking over for all wellness care and all health care. But you can read this book online, Light Therapeutics, and he talks about how he heals every single chronic disease he comes up against. It's really quite fascinating. And so I was intrigued by this. This is Sauna Space's story, is that I had health issues. I had some adrenal fatigue and acne and insomnia, and I was lethargic. This was at the end of my college career, and I was recommended by doctors to take pharmaceutical drugs, and I didn't want to do that. I was already opposed to that. I grew up in a family of doctors, so my mother's a primary care physician who does all natural therapy. She's an ozonologist now in Columbia, Missouri. But in the 80s, when I grew up in Montana, she was prescribing supplements and vitamins like way before everybody else. She was really avant-garde for what it's worth. And my father was a radiologist. So I grew up with these two polar opposite ways to address health. And I saw the fruits of what my mom did. And then what my father did was more diagnose, treat, and mammography was his specialization. So you could see clearly that the natural, like supporting the body's natural means of healing itself was a lot more effective. And that, of course, got me real interested in sauna and this electric light bath, or got me interested in sauna. So my mom recommends, hey, you should, I think you need a detox, like you should get a sauna. And so in my research, I found Dr. Kellogg's work, and I said, you know what, I'm going to build my own. I'm kind of a tinkerer. I have a builder background.
Like you're one of those.
I'm an Aries too. I'm pretty head forward, leaning forward, jumping into things, deciding precognitively and thinking about it later. So I built my own and I healed. So I used it once before bed and I slept well for the first time since I could remember. And the next night, the same thing. So then over 6 months, I used it like almost every day and all of my symptoms cleared away. Now, of course, I did combine it with going away from white flour and doing some other things in my lifestyle too, like doing yoga more seriously. But there was something it really fascinated me. Like, one, how could you just sit in this sauna on your lazy butt and all these amazing things happen? And two, where's the electric light bath? Where can you buy it? And so that was the inspiration for Sauna Space. I made my own logo and my own website and got an endorsement from a doctor. And that was 10 years ago. So now I have a beautiful craftsman shop, a factory in Columbia, Missouri. And we make these things for everybody and we ship them all over the world. And I've obsessed over one thing, and that's to make this perfect sauna. And along the way, I learned a lot about the science. In fact, in the beginning, I had no idea about photobiomodulation, light therapy. But I've subsequently dove deep into all that research in the PubMed and otherwise, and read a lot about it and was fascinated. And then later, of course, investigation to EMFs and the issues they cause, and all the way trying to incorporate that into purpose-driven design to offer what Sauna Space offers today.
It's beautiful, and you can tell that it's such a project of passion. The design and the workmanship that you put into it and all of the little details that you put into your products really stand out. It's somebody who's been looking into saunas for a while. I have one of the sauna blanket jammies, and I also have a red light panel, and I'm like, why did I not just do this the right way? For me, a lot of what I'm hoping to do with this podcast is help people understand, the dangers, the ways to mitigate it, and the ways that we can most effectively help reduce the impact on our bodies and help detoxify some of these things, and including detoxify emotions, which I got to say, the research behind the sauna and the photobiomodulation in terms of the mental health support is also pretty cool. So I want to go into that also. But I'd love to hear a little bit about how sauna, particularly light sauna, is so effective in terms of detoxification, because there are so many different ways to detox. And I think that this is really one of the simplest and most effective ways out there.
Yeah, we of course, Chloe. We have a lot of endogenous ways to detox. The liver, for example, is our friend. I was actually just reading Medical Medium's liver. Love Your Liver, or I forget what it's called, but the liver is a fascinating, complicated organ that is working all the time. And so basically, to break it down, we have the liver, and then we have our bowels. So stool and urine are two ways to eliminate toxins. The third primary way to eliminate toxins is sweating. And it's actually the most powerful, and particularly most relevant because we're not using it enough. Of the three primary ways to detox, that one, also the breath. You also detox quite a bit by breathing out. So like tongue scraping in the morning and stuff like that. It's actually quite beneficial, and oil pulling. But basically, you got three systems. If you don't use the skin to sweat in a sauna, they get overloaded. When they get overloaded, you have to rely on the immune system because a poison, a pollutant, bacterial, viral load builds up enough that it starts causing a problem that overwhelmed the three primary systems. So the immune system kicks in, and you have white blood cells that create this immune response, and they deal with the issue, and then they create antibodies. And it works well, but that's definitely a backup system. The three primary systems are what are supposed to be doing, those are the workhorses, doing the job all the time. And two of those, are autonomic. So they're running all the time. It's that third one that we need to activate, that our ancestors activated, and we unfortunately don't do it as much nowadays. So sauna can be used to detoxify literally anything. So the petrochemicals that you referenced, you can sweat those out. Heavy metals, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, aluminum, you can sweat those out. There's other ways, there's other exogenous ways that you can detox, like using chelators. And some of them, I think, in certain targeted applications are actually quite beneficial, like EDTA. But in general, those are exogenous forms that are more stressful on the body than anything endogenous. So sauna is the safest way to get rid of these super, super toxic, super dangerous poisons that we're experiencing from our environment. When you use sauna, you activate the body's own built-in systems, and it gets to detox in the way it wants. First of all, the liver gets a break, and the kidneys and stuff, they get a rest for a little bit. And you have these little actors in the cells, the heat shock proteins, that selectively detox within the ability of the cell, the ability of the tissue, the ability of the organs to detox and eliminate. And then those toxins are moved out of the cells and into the lymphatic system in the bloodstream. And if you're already really hot, you're already sweating. So you start sweating and you sweat out the toxins. And if you measure toxin concentration in sauna sweat, it's way higher than the toxin concentration in aerobic exercise sweat, like somebody running on a treadmill. You can look at the 9/11 worker studies where they measure toxin concentrations of like toluene and xylene and stuff. And they had incredibly high levels, right? They were exposed to all these toxins in the air, and they had tremendous reductions in 3 and then 6 months of regular sauna use. So we have the most effective tool to detox here is sauna. And it's also the safest because we're just activating that intelligent, built-in, beautifully divine system that we have inside. With Sauna Space, with the electric light bath, we introduce a unique way of heating the body, and also this benefit of what we keep saying, light therapy, photobiomodulation. That means light controlling biology. So there's two essential sort of core advantages to using incandescent light that has a lot of near-infrared in it. And that's because of the near-infrared itself. So near-infrared light is outside of the red spectrum. It's the high-energy infrared. So it's 700 to 1500 nanometers. And like I said before, it's the majority of what we get from the sun. So we have a lot of experience with this for eons and eons, millions of years, really. And we see that relationship of love with near-infrared in our mitochondria. So our mitochondria have a light receptor protein, the cytochrome C. Cytochrome means cell of light. So it absorbs red light that we can see and near-infrared light that we can't see. But the reason why the majority of what we absorb from the sun is near-infrared and not red has to do with tissue penetration. So I'm going to geek out a little bit here, but it's important to understand this. The body has an optical window. The body and biological tissue doesn't absorb all the wavelengths of the sun the same. Some wavelengths go in a lot deeper than others. And that's because we have three main chromophores in the body. On the high end, absorbing ultraviolet light and blue light and a lot of visible light is hemoglobin and melanin. And then on the other end, what's absorbing most of the infrared light is water. And so, of course, we have lots of hemoglobin, lots of melanin, and we're 70% water. So these are the primary chromophores in our body. And they create these two sloping absorption curves where they absorb really strongly. We're at the high energy and then getting out into mid and far infrared. In between those two is what's called the optical window of the human body. That's about 600 to 1400 nanometers. And what's really interesting is the absorption band of the cytochrome C in the mitochondria is 600 to 1000 nanometers. So it's red light, and about half of near-infrared light is what is absorbed by the mitochondria and activates an amazing array of healing functions. So when we're in the electric light bath, the Sauna Space version of a sauna, we're getting a photobiomodulation effect at the same time that we do sauna. And what are those effects? So light therapy, first of all, is defined as the use of red and near-infrared light to heal damaged tissue and reoptimize healthy tissue. So this is a benefit that every cell of the body gets except red blood cells. And when we use near-infrared, we get that effect in really deep. Red light only penetrates the skin a little bit. It does not penetrate bone tissue, and it does not go deeply into the body. So if we want to fully biomodulate our guts and organs and liver and brain, only near-infrared does that. So when we're using near-infrared in the sauna, we're photobiomodulating super deeply into the body. And what happens is the mitochondria makes more energy, it makes more ATP, and it releases nitric oxide out of the cell, and it creates super oxides that combine with the nitric oxide and the extra energy to do a wide array of things we call the mitochondrial functions. So there's inflammation reduction, there's regenerative growth factors produced, there's epigenetic repair, so that's anti-aging. And then, of course, the nitric oxide released out of the tissue increases blood flow and blood circulation and tissue oxygenation. And those then have a cascade effect on the higher organ functions of the body, right? You get nitric oxide is an immune agent, and you get increased blood flow throughout your body. So you're getting immune modulation effects and all these healing effects in the cell and repair of the DNA. And it's like amazing. In the Sauna Space sauna, you're doing that at the same time you do sauna. So we all know that detox can be tricky. Sometimes you get detox reactions. Detoxification is an intensive, sometimes stressful endeavor. But when we use near-infrared photobiomodulation, the whole time we're making the detox less stressful. We're giving the cell more energy. We're improving blood flow, and we're overlapping a lot of benefits of the sauna therapy itself, the heat therapy itself. And in doing so, we're making the sauna, the detoxification process more effective, less stressful, more energetically easy for the body to do and the cells to do its job. So that's like the one benefit of using near-infrared light from the electric light bulb to power the sauna. The other benefit is the way near-infrared light heats the body. And this is a big consumer benefit of using my style of sauna. It's really fast. It heats you up super fast. And that's because of that deep penetration of light. So some of those near-infrared photons are hitting the mitochondria, right? And they're causing this light therapy effects. But some of them are hitting water. But near-infrared light is only partially absorbed by water. It's just kind of some quantum mechanical stuff. But basically, near-infrared light penetrates 4 to 5 inches into the body. So you're heating, when you use near-infrared light to heat the body, you are heating the body radiantly. You're not using the air to heat you. All the Finnish saunas, Turkish saunas, classic saunas, and also far infrared saunas are primarily using the air to heat the body. And and because of that, you have to preheat those saunas, and then you have to sit in them for like an hour or more to achieve the goal of a sauna, which is to sweat 1 pound of water out and raise core temperature 3 degrees. So the lower end of near-infrared is deeply penetrating and heating the body up radiantly. But once you get into mid-infrared and far infrared, you have 100% absorption of the light by water. So far infrared wavelengths only go a couple millimeters into the body. And that's why, practically speaking, you have to preheat a far infrared sauna. That's the case with all of them. In a Sauna Space sauna, you get in, turn the lights on, and you start sweating in like 10 minutes. And in 20 or 25 minutes, you're done. So it's the most efficient way to do sauna for the sake of sauna. But when we add the light therapy in, we have this huge added benefit that's not to be underestimated, especially since our modern lifestyle keeps us away from the sun.
Yeah, it's amazing to me because both elements of your saunas are incredibly healing and dynamic healing modalities that are very, very simple for everybody to use. As I've said with my light panel, again, I know I've learned since buying it, I've learned more about the flicker and all the different technology that's going on. But even with that, it works really well. Like Remy fell and had, an egg-sized bump on his head, and I did the red light on him for 10 minutes, 2 times one night, and the next morning it was totally gone. I use it. A lot of children with special needs, or just a lot of children and adults in general are dealing with mitochondrial dysfunction, often secondary to toxicity. So really, it's just a really beautiful symbiosis with the different technologies that you have within the sauna and how they work together. I'm curious a little bit if you want to nerd out for me a bit on, so as I'm assuming that the photobiomodulation also helps with structuring water within the body. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So, let's talk about structuring of water and what is structured water. So structured water, smart water, the fourth state of water, it's basically scientifically when all the positive, negative ions of the water you have are aligned in a uniform fashion. So it's structured as opposed to being bulk water, which is wherein the positive, negative charge, because water is not a neutral molecule, it has a positive side and a negative side. They're just randomly tossed around there. So it turns out that structured water has so much relevance to biology. So when you can structure water in 2 ways, and before I get into that, I should say that structured water exists everywhere in our environment, in the plants, in the animals, and in us. The mitochondria is 100% structured water in it. There's some argument that the entirety of the use of the cell's ATP energy is not for direct use in cellular processes, but rather just to structure the water mostly. When you have structured water, you basically have bioavailable water. It's water that allows the cells and the cellular metabolites and the tissues to work a lot more efficiently, whether it's inside the cells, whether it's nerve tissue or the myofascial system. It's one of the largest organ systems of the body, wherein water is the primary element, and the water is the master communicator, messenger in between all the organs. So structured water is so essential and so relevant to biology and to human biology. And there's 2 main ways to structure water. One is to vortex water. So you can buy online water structuring devices. Some of them are even really cool portable ones that you just pour the water through a funnel, and it basically just goes like this. And that vortexing action has the effect of aligning the charges. You also, when you cook, you make broth in a crock pot, the bubbling and water forms a structured state across an ionic surface. So with that collagen and the other stuff in there, structures the water as it's cooking.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you cook it slowly over time. So, but that's probably not the primary way water is structured in the universe. The primary way is from incandescent light, primarily from sunlight. So all wavelengths of sunlight structure water, not just the photobiomodulation ones, which is red and near infrared. Blue light, ultraviolet, all the infrared and visible light, they all structure water. So you could set a glass outside, or you can set a glass in front of one of my bulbs, and it will structure the water inside of it. There are also other interesting ways to structure water, like putting a crystal in it or a gemstone in contact with the water. There are also some really cool technologies that you and I have heard of, like some Vedic and some other things that, Lila Quantum's products that also have the effect of structuring water. But in the environment, the core primary way that all water is structured is with light, is with incandescent light. It's not with LED blue light. And it's really not as much all this modern artificial lighting. It's the light of nature, which is incandescent. that structures water. And so, though most of us nowadays, unfortunately, don't get much sunlight. And when we get sunlight, we don't get it on our whole body, right? We're wearing a t-shirt, we're wearing clothing. But our ancestors understood that there's so much power to the sun. So one of the most beneficial things you can do when you're out in the sun is get the effect of structuring the water in your body. And when you're in the Sauna Space sauna, you get that same effect. And so in a way, it's crazy because you're losing water, right? You're sweating, but in a sense of structuring the water that's inside of your body, you actually exit a Sauna Space sauna more hydrated than when you went in, because you're helping the body make that water more bioavailable, so it's more able to do its job. And again, any wavelength of light can do that. But if we want to structure the water deeply in our body, if we want to structure the water deep inside our brains, and of course the brain is a huge focus nowadays because of the heavy metal load that it has and all the toxins in there, it's only near infrared light that's going in there and photobiomodulating and structuring water. And I guess I'll take this as a segue into another benefit of near infrared light and of sunlight, which is 70% near infrared, and that's melatonin. So melatonin is more classically understood as the sleep hormone, and blue light enters the pineal gland during the day and stimulates the production of melatonin, in the middle of your brain, the antenna behind your brain, the pineal gland. And then at the end of the day, when the sun sets, the pineal gland releases the melatonin to the bloodstream, and the brain clock tells you to go to bed. And that's part of our circadian rhythm, which is really important. We're all beings of rhythm and of frequency. But there's a more recent understanding of melatonin that is quite fascinating. It turns out that 94% of the body's melatonin is not made by the pineal gland. It's made in the cells from the stimulus of near infrared light. And it's made right there in the mitochondria, where it can, the melatonin, first of all, is the body's number one antioxidant. So it's a huge immune actor. And you're designed to get a lot of sunlight, or, hop in a Sauna Space sauna and get lots of near infrared light deep into the deep cells of your body to produce melatonin at the cellular level, to refill the antioxidant reserves that you have in the cells daily. So it's another huge benefit of incandescent light, of full spectrum light that is beyond the photobiomodulation and beyond the structuring of water. And I'm sure the more we look into the light of nature and the sun, we find more and more elements that are so beneficial to our health. But I find that fascinating because people take melatonin, for sleep as orally, but you can get plenty of melatonin if you get a nice big dose of near infrared light on your naked flesh.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting also because melatonin has been studied recently, like high dose melatonin is being studied in oncology research, as does hyperthermia in certain conditions in certain places. Obviously not a catch-all for anybody who might be dealing with cancer, but both really interesting research that's coming out. And sleep dysregulation is a massive issue in our society as well. I think one of the things, and I mentioned this to you before, I think it's so interesting how much sauna and photobiomodulation can also help with mental health. I'm just looking, there was a cool study that I saw. So this study showed that was done in 2016, showed that just one session of whole body hyperthermia led to an acute antidepressant effect that lasted for 6 weeks. That's out of control, especially as we're looking at the mental health crisis that we're having today, especially if you're looking at teens and their suicidal ideations and the dramatic challenges that we have with SSRIs, which were just pretty much completely debunked by Western medicine. Sauna and light therapy both have a ton of ways in which they're supporting mental health. I'd love to hear what you think about that and how you think that that's working.
The reason we're unhealthy is because we have disharmony in our internal and external environment. And so we need to detox all the poisons in our body, and then we need to reoptimize and restore optimal function. And so we need to look at diet and water and our sleep, but we really also need to look at purifying the body. When you purify the body, you get this stuff out of the way and you give the body what it needs. It really takes care of itself really well. So you do see in the research in sauna, improvement in spinal cord injury victims and motor function, with photobiomodulation. Near-infrared light causes a mesenchymal stem cell release from the skull, from the bone cells in the skull. They go into the brain and dissolve amyloid plaques. So, that might be related to why we're seeing a reduction in the risk of dementia. And so, you can get into the weeds of what's happening in the cells, but if you look more and see the forest for the trees, look at the studies I mentioned at the beginning. People are living longer and reducing the risk of dying of all things through sauna. And when you cleanse yourself and you're healthy and you get the heavy metals out and you improve protein function and you're nourishing the body with what it needs, of course your brain works better. And of course you feel happier. You could go on forever in some of these studies, like near-infrared light causes it promotes the release of serotonin and dopamine, monoamine neurotransmitters that make you feel good, like after exercise. And so that's what SSRIs are that you mentioned. They're stopping the reabsorption of those serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So they're trying to keep those serotonins flowing so that you feel good for longer. But the body is designed to have those, when you get that exogenous or endogenous stimulus that makes you feel good. It might be breath work and meditation. It might be a big warm hug that you got from your friend. We don't need to give the body much that's exogenous. I'm a firm believer of this in terms of drugs or anything else. It's really just food that it needs, a clean food. And then it needs light and it needs a way to detoxify. And certainly the sauna can be combined with some dietary detox protocols like liver cleanses, like EDTA, which is really effective for, EDTA is really effective. That's one of the only ones that I really like because it's an old chelator that was invented in like the 40s. And it's shown in the literature to be the only heavy metal detox chelator that detoxes these modern nanoparticles we're dealing with nowadays. There's graphene oxide and quantum dot technology that's in our food and in our technology and is in also pharmaceutical drugs now that is a new enemy. It's this new foreign poison that we don't want in our bodies that we weren't even really designed to deal with in the first place. So there's some targeted use of that. Some people also, like Dr. Chris Shade of Quicksilver Scientific, has this push catch protocol that's really beautiful using charcoal. I also recommend a product called Advanced TRS that is a zeolite spray, basically. That in the special needs community, but also, if you go to like Advanced TRS's Instagram, it's really profound. Mm-hmm. The healing that people are getting, and they're getting that because they're ridding the body of heavy metals. And so combining that with a frequent practice of sauna, I feel like, and some of these lifestyle changes, you can really overcome anything. And if you're going to do sauna, do it, try it the way we're doing it with the near infrared light, with incandescent electric light, because that benefit of photobiomodulation and that replenishes and replaces to some extent that missing therapy we get from the sun, heliotherapy. It's really, it really sets itself apart. And I will also say, like, the experience of sauna. Some people have used sauna before, like a Finnish sauna, and they found it claustrophobic or oppressive, and they get out drained. It's too intense, and you have detox reactions, and that is a part of the journey. Detox reactions are part of it. When you use sauna or you use TRS or other things, sometimes you get a headache, and that's the heavy metals coming out of the cells and your body trying to get rid of it. Or there are many other types of detox reactions, skin reactions and other things. But when we use light therapy, and especially in an environment that's protected from EMF, so we're creating this really tranquil space where there's no sympathetic stress from the environment on the person, we make the detoxification process a lot more safe, a lot more effective, a lot more tolerable, I should say. And so you have to try it, but that's why we have a trial period. But when you're in the Sauna Space sauna, it feels really zen inside. it returns you to that feeling of nature, of sitting in front of the campfire. It's not a stressful, like, look at my watch, when can I get out of here type of feeling. It's a very nourishing feeling. And for many people, you're giving the body what it's been starved of for quite some time.
Yeah, and on so many different levels also. So there are two things I want to dive into. One, I'm just going to note how brilliantly the heat shock proteins are upregulated with the sauna and the hyperthermia actions. I think that that's so important in terms of the protein. I just can't stress enough how important that is in terms of optimizing protein refolding and reuse and clearing out degraded proteins. That's something that is seen in pretty much all neurodegenerative disorders. And I think that that's clearly one of the ways in which sauna is so helpful in preventing these disorders. And anybody who's worried about that should really look at some of the research. It's pretty mind-blowing, honestly. It's really impressive. But I'd love for you also to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi. I'm sure I'll have somebody on to do a deep dive in the future also, but I think it's so important. And I think, again, it's one of the things that really makes your sauna stand out, that you guys have the Faraday cage option.
Yeah. So nowadays we have a billion times more man-made EMF than our ancestors had 100 years ago. So it's not something we've evolved to protect ourselves from for a very long time. It's a very recent invention. And basically what it does is it causes oxidative stress in the body. It opens up these things called voltage-gated calcium ion channels. You have them in most cells of the body. They're used for cellular signaling. When you open those up, calcium floods into the cell and you get too much production of superoxides, and particularly one is produced called peroxynitrite. And peroxynitrite has a really long half-life, and it's able to get into the nucleus of the cell, and then it breaks down in the nucleus water and it damages the DNA. So if you have your cell phone in your pocket for 3 days, has the same effect as X-ray in your gonads. So that's a big disconnect that people have that we need to bring into focus here. It's not just ionizing radiation like X-rays and gamma rays that damage DNA and ultraviolet light that damages DNA. It's also non-ionizing microwaves and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth that damage DNA slowly through that oxidative stress process I just described. So that happens in the whole body, but the highest concentration of voltage-gated calcium ion channels are where? Guess what? They're in the heart and in the nerve tissue and in the brain. When the cell phone signal hits the graphene oxide inside your body, they come together and they start moving in these fractal patterns. And so they cause damage in the blood and the arteries and the cells. And we need to get that out of our bodies. So the 5G and the EMFs in general, because of our toxic state nowadays of all the heavy metals and all these new nanoparticles we're using in human, all across human life, they all have an amplifying sort of force multiplier effect that's deleterious to our health. And there are, having said all that gloom and doom, there's a lot of hope here. So one thing is get heavy metals out of your body, right? Detox the graphene oxide and the quantum dot stuff out of your body, and the hydrogels, get that out of you. EDTA is effective for that. There's some other things as well. And then use sauna for that and for reducing the amount of things in your body that don't belong, the things that are not you. And when you get more healthy, you can be more you. But there is hope here. You can buy graphite-based shielding paints, and you can paint your bedroom to block out the external radiation from coming in. You can use Faraday bags that are widespread online to just put your phone in. I was reading a recent study that found that even when you turn your phone into airplane mode, it still transmits.
I keep hearing that also, and it pisses me off. That seems like nonsense.
Well, that's really frustrating. But so a surefire way to deal with that is just to put it in a Faraday bag. And a Faraday bag is made of metal. So Faraday cages are basically in research and in laboratories are these 6-sided boxes that are made of metal. And electric fields can't go in or out. So they block everything. They keep everything in, they block everything out. And if you grow in the Faraday cage, it acts as as sort of um, a drainage system. So any of the electric fields that hit it drain out to the ground. So in the Sauna Space sauna, instead of having these big metal plates or blocks, we figured out, it was actually figured out before me, but we improved on it, is that you can just use little silver cabling that's really micro-sized. And so you have silver thread in a fabric and you have gaps between it, but it's enough to have that metal or that silver thread in there to block the cell phone signal substantially, like 99.9%, which is almost all of it. So I didn't know this in the beginning, as only eventually I learned about this actually through a colleague of mine named Brian Hoyer, who runs a company called Shielded Healing, and he does professional home EMF assessment and mitigation. And I learned that, wow, we got a problem here. So I started out first with EMF shielding the light panels that we make, the sauna panels, and also our portable light. And so the guard that protects you from touching the bulb because it's hot is also grounded, and that traps the electric field from coming out of the filament. And then all the wiring inside is electrically and magnetically shielded, and the power cord is shielded as well. So I figured that out so that, Sauna Space is not bringing any EMFs to the party, just the light, just the healing nature of the light. But eventually, I was pursuing a way to block out all the EMFs in the environment. And so we eventually, over the years, developed our Faraday sauna that we offer now. And it's a fabric that I developed that's 35% silver, and it's made of organic cotton. And that's lining the whole sauna. It's also connected to the electrical ground of the light panel, and the grounding mat itself has the material in it. So the bamboo mat that you sit on inside also has this material in it. So I've recreated this 6-sided Faraday cage out of this breathable, beautiful organic cotton silver material that has that effect of blocking out the EMFs. And it's cool because there are other shielding fabrics out there, and there were when I first started this, but there weren't any organic ones, and there weren't any that were tested for 5G. And so I developed mine using organic fabric, and I tested it in a third-party lab for these like 20 up to 30 gigahertz, the 5G wavelengths, and we found some incredibly awesome results. So we proceeded forward and came out with what we have today. And nowadays, there are other fabrics that have come out that are 5G tested, which is great. But all that to say that in your sleeping environment and in any therapeutic environment, the best thing to do, although some of these products are great that are out there for making the EMFs less stressful in the body, these different products you put in your space, the best thing to do is completely block them out. And so I highly recommend, for your audience to look into that. If you're in a permanent home that you live in, the shielding paint is one of the best investments you can make. There's also Faraday bed canopies that you can get depending on, what kind of look you want in your bedroom, but you're at sleep a third of your life. And in there, you don't want that oxidative stress on your body. And then otherwise, when you're healing, you wouldn't meditate, just as you wouldn't meditate in a polluted space. Ideally, you don't want to do your healing in your sauna space, with all this EMF. So our basic product just has the grounding mat, but if you're interested in full Faraday protection, we offer that too. We've had that for a couple of, maybe like 2 or 3 years now. And it is an exceedingly popular product because of it's the only way in some ways in the sauna environment to create this space that brings you back into a pre-1891, a 19th century environment where there's no wireless transmissions going through it, nothing in the air, and there's no blue light, which we should talk about, and there's no flickering light. There's nothing in there except these original healing elements of nature, the heat and the light and that grounding feeling. When you sit on the grounding mat, you get grounded. So when you're grounding by having your bare feet in the earth, it basically is an electromagnetic detox. It drains the positive voltage out of you and charges you with electrons immediately. Actually, it's like in a fraction of a second. And so you're doing that in our product as well. All of that stacks together for this really uniquely Zen experience that you don't get everywhere.
Absolutely. And I've been in your Faraday chamber before, and it is a palpable shift from outside to inside. So I can only imagine, especially as your body's doing this heavy work of detoxification, giving your body that space and freedom from these exogenous toxins and like stressors is going to allow you to detox further. So you have your Faraday sauna. You also have these beautiful photon lights and sort of a buildable system. So you can also do a bathroom. You have a kit to create a sauna in your shower. Tell us a little bit about those and sort of some of the different options that people can look into.
Yeah, absolutely. The flagship option, as you said, is the Faraday product. The Illuminati sauna is the base sauna, so it's lower price because it doesn't have that expensive, 35% silver liner in it. But the core of the sauna is the tungsten infrared sauna panel, and those come in 3 and 4 bulb options. And you can also buy those and do it yourself, your own enclosure, if that makes sense. Or if you already have a cabinet sauna, are dissatisfied with how long it takes you to sweat, and you're looking for photobiomodulation as well, you can buy we recommend the 4-light panel as a standalone, ideally. The 3-light panel is more of an add-on, but some people do get that as well. You can buy just the 4-light panel and put it into any small space with a small ceiling, like a small closet, or we have our shower converter kit that comes with an organic shower curtain that covers the top and the front of a full bath stall, and comes with a tungsten pedestal. They put the sauna panel on and a stool that you sit on, and you sort of box in the shower stall. It's not for everybody, but for people who have an extra shower, it's really nice to do that. There's no grounding mat in it, and it's a little more. It's not quite as cool as our saunas, but these are all ways to bring Sauna Space and sauna and natural incandescent light therapy into your life. So we're trying as best as possible to create solutions, because there's so many different home environments, that people have. People are often quite space restricted, but the sauna itself is also pretty cool. It's 4 feet wide and 4 feet deep, but it's only 2 feet wide on the back. So it fits into almost any corner of a home, and they all just plug into 110. So they do work worldwide too. We have 240 volt bulbs for international people, but it's also very portable, so it's easy to set up. So, ideally you want it set up each, for daily use, but it's really easy to break down and put in the closet, or to take with you, or to let someone borrow. And having said that, when you get inside, it's actually quite spacious inside. It's a really ideal volume. So all of our products, come with the trial, so you can try what you want, and hopefully you get
You have a really long. You have like 100-day trial, don't you? You have a really
in the U.S. and Canada. All of those are solutions for full body sauna, full body hyperthermic, and full body photobiomodulation. The actual best, the most flagship product is a recent upgrade to the sauna that we've come out with, which is the 3 bulb panel. And that's because you can put it below the 4 bulb panel and create a 7 bulb system that still works on a 15 amp circuit. And this was inspired by some of my work with Dr. McCullough, actually, because he wanted more, and he's quite a sauna enthusiast.
McCullough?
And so
pushing the boundaries? No,
yeah, right. More is always better. But really amazing guy. So he and I tried this out together and experimented with it quite a bit. And so it's not for everyone. You have to be a sauna enthusiast, not really have underlying health conditions as much, be acclimated to sauna use and all that. But you can decrease your sauna session from 25 minutes to like 14 minutes, in that where you're sweating out a pound of water and you've raised your core temperature 3 degrees or more in like 14 minutes. And that's what I use at home. So it's like, for those of you who have no time is the most important thing. That's amazing. That is our most high-end option. But so those are all the sauna solutions. And you can look more on our website, sauna.space, all the details and see it and check it out. But there's also perhaps my favorite member of the products that we offer, and that's the photon therapy light. It's one of our thermal light bulbs that I developed on electrically shielded panel, and it can go straight, it can tilt, and it can also stand on its back. And this is a fascinating product, and especially because of more recent understanding that I have. Dr. Kilnog and its 130-year use is for local spot therapy. So providing relief to tissue, anywhere on the body, on the feet, and all those benefits that we discussed before about inflammation reduction and blood flow increasing and making things feel better from the light therapy and the heat therapy. Those are all applying locally. So you can use it on the gut for, gut inflammation. You can use it on the head for neuropsychiatric benefit. You can use it for lymph drainage on the back of the neck, for so many things, just aches and pains, joint pains and stuff like that. That's what people are classically using it for. But more recently, I understand that has a use that goes far beyond the local spot therapy use. And that's for indoor light correcting technology. So this light from the thermal light bulb, from the photon, cancels out the measurable blue light and measurable flickering light. You can measure this with a spectrometer or a flicker meter. I think we have a video on our Instagram of that, where when you bring a photon into a space that's lit by LEDs, whether it's overhead lighting or the computer screen that I'm looking at you from right now, the amount of blue light goes to almost nothing. And the amount of flickering, pulsing light, that frequency that you can measure, also drops to almost nothing. So the photon is correcting and reoptimizing the lighting environment indoors. It's literally bringing the outdoor spectrum indoors that we don't have indoors, because we only have blue light indoors with all this modern lighting. And many of us now have low E glass, energy efficient glass in the windows that's blocking all of the infrared, including the near infrared. And so we're in these weird, like hospital-like, sterile-like environments from a light perspective in our indoor environments, even if they're aesthetically beautiful and all the furniture and all the coverings, everything's beautiful. The light is all really toxic and synthetic. So bringing this natural light in corrects the lighting environment, and it helps people with technology fatigue and screen fatigue and that stressful feeling you get from blue light. And since it's not flickering and there is no blue light from our light source here, it's the perfect light source for after dark. It's literally this firelight here. It's literally an electric campfire, and so you can use it to vibe up any space and use it after dark and chilling around, not just for computer work, when you're reading, when anywhere you are indoors where you're hanging out in one area for a little while, you turn this on and have it next to you as this happy companion that's giving you the light that you're supposed to be getting every day. And it's convenient and portable, and you just plug it in and use it anywhere you want. And it's really a game changer, for the indoor space. So like I'm spoiled, of course. I have one at my, next to my bed, and one at the desk, and I have one in my healing room too. But it's a great product. It's really affordable, and it brings tremendous benefit to people who are low frequency, who are down or in a funk. Just having this next to you, it's really once you use it for a while, you're like, wow, I'm so it's really something that I travel everywhere with it, particularly in places where I can't bring the sauna, hotel rooms or other places. I still have this companion with me that keeps me present, keeps me high frequency, keeps me centered, and provides that comfort, of the firelight that we're all programmed to love.
Yeah, it's innate in us, and you feel the difference. I mean, it's like going to the beach and being in the sun. You're grounding in the sand, and you're getting the nutrients from the sun, and you feel that difference instantly. It's not just because you're on vacation, but it's a part of who we are as humans. I love it. I think that the Photon is such a wonderful product for people to start with if that's what they're looking for. It's, as you said, it's really affordable, and it's something that you can work into your day every day to help optimize your health. And it's really wonderful. One more note before we head out. I just wanted to really point out the fact that from the research, there is such a massive correlation to a higher, so the benefits of sauna are so dose dependent. I found that really, really interesting how, the benefits in terms of cardiovascular support and detoxification, obviously, but neurological support, all of that really increased dramatically when people were using the sauna, I believe, like 3 to 4 times a week, as opposed to 1 to 2 times a week. So I think that that's really interesting for people to note, and also really important in terms of advocating for people to have something in their home to help them get into that sauna space, literally, more regularly, instead of having to go out somewhere else to do that. It just makes it so much more convenient.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good thing to point out. That's the Laucanon study. It was a 20-year study on 2,000 Finnish men. And the guys that used sauna 1 day a week had, I don't remember exactly what it was, like 30 or 40% reduction in risk of heart attack and cardiovascular disease versus those that didn't do sauna at all. And that's 2,000 people across 20 years. That's a massive a conclusion. That's not like it's not a research with a petri dish and a couple cells. Like, that's very conclusive. And what was interesting is what you just said. The guys that were doing sauna 3 days a week had another 30, 40% reduction in their risk of heart attack and the risk of cardiovascular disease. And they followed those same test group for another 5 years, and they published or 6 years, and they published in 2021 the same outcomes for dementia. The guys that did sauna 1 day a week had big reductions in dementia risk, and the guys that did sauna 3 days a week had another huge proportional decrease in risk of dementia. So it seems that the sweet spot is to do sauna 2 to 3 days a week. Ideally, I use it probably more than that, more like 5 days a week. But any sauna, Chloe, is better than no sauna, for sure.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you'd like to explain or dive into? Or I think we covered a whole lot.
No, we covered it all. It's just the more I do this and sort of channeling this thing and working with Sauna Space and seeing so many healing stories, the more I come back to not worrying so much about the science. This stuff works, and understanding that we have this unlimited power in our bodies to heal. The body can heal anything. We have to clean it out, and we have to give it what it needs. And what it needs is what our ancestors were getting 100 or 200 or more years ago. So when you think about things that way, look at your life, look at your indoor environment, look at your relationships, the food you eat, the water, and do it like our ancestors. And you can thrive in this modern environment. You don't have to escape and go to some far off remote place. Like, we're here to do the work of the divine right here. And we have a lot of challenges in society nowadays. So we need to be here, but we need to be healthy. And to do so, it's all that creating more harmony in the internal environment. And you just need what God's given us, the fruits of the earth. And also the genius of mankind, some of these amazing modern technologies that are being used for healing. So they're all great. All saunas are great. All photobiomodulation is great. I have my particular recipe here that I think is unique and maybe the best, but all of these things are valuable and beneficial and much more effective than what we're getting for treatment of chronic disease from conventional medical care. What we're doing here in natural healing and wellness is much lower risk and much higher benefit than anything that's coming out of the pharmacopoeia and the pharmaceuticals. And that's the cost benefit analysis you do when you buy things. So we already do that when we buy iPhone cases and cars and everything else. Let's not suspend that judgment. We have an incredible power of our human mind to look at these things and say, hey, well, what's safe? What's really safe and effective? It's what's high benefit and low risk. And the things we've talked about today are all incredibly accessible and low risk, and so beneficial to us that it's something that we all need to consider as a first response, not a last response after conventional medical care has failed us, but as a first response. Empower ourselves with some of this understanding and watching and learning about how the body works and what it needs, and take charge and start to feel your body and try out these things and see that this is totally the way to go. This is the way we heal ourselves. It's naturally.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I've learned so much from you, and I really hope that everybody gets out there and tries your saunas. And I really appreciate the work and the passion that you put into this project. It really, really shows, and it's a beautiful offering that you're giving to society right now.
Well, thank you, Chloe. This has been a really fun conversation today. Yeah, if anybody has any are interested, our website is sauna.space, and on social, we're at Sauna Space everywhere. You can check out some of our content on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Radical Remedy Podcast. The Radical Remedy Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor/patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.